Red tide rolls in a cold breeze, steel boots on the sand, no ease. Propellers hum the Soviet quest, but the island ain't weak, not less. She-hot tanks roaring loud and clear, zombie hula girls, no fear. Tiki terrors rise, eyes ablaze, Soviets drown in the island haze. Island don't surf, island don't win, Tiki terrors won't let them in. She-hot tanks make the ground shake, zombie hula girls' hearts won't break. Under moonlight chants they clash, steel meets flame, bones will thrash. Cold War's heat, the island's grip, Tiki rage will never slip. Drums beat, wild waves take hold, Soviet shiver, hearts turn cold. In the depths of night they fail, Tiki terror's ancient tale. Island don't surf, island don't win, Tiki terrors won't let them in. She-hot tanks make the ground shake, zombie hula girls' hearts won't break. Hearts won't break.
Howdy, howdy, it's your old pal, Tiki the Hut. Thanks for joining me again tonight for another Too Late Tonight with Tiki. As you can tell, there's been a little bit of more progress. Not much, but you know, I've been chipping away at the motor pool for the fall of Berlin. So hopefully with y'all's help, you know, we'll put a couple more hours towards it and see how much damage we can do. RK Bad Rabbit and CV Cooper, what's going on, guys? Alright, let me grab some brushes, get back to work. So here's what we've got on the Jeep. So I had to paint the fuel can red. I know it's not very historically accurate, but I don't really care. I always like painting my fuel cans red. And they're brightness down for you guys. So yeah, just a little standard Jeep, nothing too crazy. Simple, easy, hopefully fast. Sean, you can't keep blaming me for war crimes. Well, I hope you're able to finish your fins while we sit here and paint. That'd be awesome. I always like hearing when you guys are also not like bullying, not bullying or influencing anybody, but I always like hearing when you guys are painting the same time I am. I think it's kind of cool. All right. So as you can tell, I have one painted infantry model as well. Not based yet, but one painted infantry model as well. Pistol on his hip. Beat stick on his side. Standard trooper. The way I get the kind of paint scheme down for the guys in the Jeeps. Very nice, very nice. Is there still the I think it's the Jackal Alphys or whatever, the leader that can carry a sniper rifle? Is that still a model for the GSC? Yeah, basing these and Death Guard green is actually a lot better than tan. Working out a lot better for me. Yeah, I think we talked about the CV Cooper. I think they also nerfed the Keller Morph. Like, he doesn't get his worm tooth rounds anymore, I don't think. That's a shame. That model is so cool. That's awesome. I'm glad you still think as your warlord, especially for the lore. I always thought from the cooler GSC units. So good, Rashawn. You should try the GSC, man. They're a lot of fun. Again, I don't know about 10th edition, but 9th edition, their rules were actually really, really cool. So I'm just trying to cover like the large areas of the truck with a bigger brush. I'm going to go back in with a smaller brush and kind of get more of the nooks and crannies. Let's see what everybody else is working on. Yeah, no, and I hear you, Quick Hunter Sean, about how you play Kill Team, but you don't want to play a big game in store because the shit terrain. I always call it the 1990s laser tag arena, you know, L and 7 shaped terrain. But yeah, Arcade's right. Yeah, you got to bring your own. I know we always talk about it on the stream, but yeah, but I think being playing more bolt action Comic 47 than any other tabletop game, now I think I'm super partial to, you know, either realistic or just terrain heavy boards. Ooh, Arcade, that's tough because you got to think about, you know, are you just talking about big pieces of terrain? Talking about buildings? Are you talking about roads? Are you talking about, you know, smaller pieces of like scatter terrain, walls, fences? That's tough. I think it's better to say like percentage wise, like how much of the board is covered by terrain. I'd say it's at least, I think for bolt action, at least minimum, I would say 25 to 30% of the board need to be covered in terrain. I think anyways. But I think it's also how you play the terrain rules in bolt action, especially 3rd edition, like I said. I like the way that, you know, RK, me, you, and some of the other guys do it. That buildings and armored vehicles and other specialty terrain that you point out, like giant rock formations and stuff like that, those can be heavy cover, but everything else is just light cover. I think when you do it like that, it makes the games actually pretty good. I really want to. I need to hurry up and build my commandos. So CB Cooper's looking enough to get me some, but I need to hurry up and desperately build some commandos and get a get kill team in. Which is so weird, because like I said, I want to play Orc Commandos, but now they came out with the Rekka crew. Now I can't find the cards for the commandos anywhere. I was like, ah. I feel like I always get into everything like too late. Right as I get into something, it's like changing. Oh, okay, cool. It's good to know I don't need the cards. That's awesome. Yeah, I think player plays terrain, and like at most, that's the beauty of well, at least for bolt action or order die, you know, because they have a scatter mechanic to it. But you know, if you're old enough 40k player to actually have scatter dice, that's the benefit of those. You know, you can player place your terrain and then roll like a scatter die with like a 2d6, and just have it shift a little bit. No. If you're talking about terrain for bolt action coming 47, it's usually just you just try and like lay out a realistic, like if you're fighting over a town, you just try and lay out to your best ability what a legit town would look like on the tabletop. And like if it's just a friendly game, then yeah, you get with your opponent and you guys can adjust the terrain as needed and stuff like that to make it like a little bit more fair if you want. But yeah, you just try and build a. It's almost the way I say it. Like if you're gonna play bolt action or coming 47, like imagine playing on a model train, like diorama or a model train set table. You know, you want to look as accurate to a town or a battlefield or whatever you're trying to fight of as possible. Like you want to go more for diorama accuracy than you do for, you know, quote unquote tabletop fairness. Hey, what's going on, Francois? RK, what way do you try to do when building a force, infantry, heavy, armor heavy, or balanced? Especially since there's no defined place you're going to deploy, you still have that a little random. I think I'm not sure I know what you're asking, RK. If you're asking how like map setup, it takes into account, you know, infantry heavy armies, tank heavy armies, or balanced armies. I don't know. I think it just kind of take as the mission comes, whether it's meeting engagements, quarters, or what have you. Let me know if I misunderstood that. Nice, Francois. Doing muddy water probably is not easy at all. Oh, okay, turning it back on me. No, I like that. No, I really do appreciate that. You have a little bit quieter, it's just because I'm trying to, like, paint. No, so how do I do infantry heavy armors, tank heavy army, how do I do infantry heavy armies, tank heavy armies, or balanced armies? Okay, so an example of an infantry heavy army for me, my style is usually infantry heavy. I take, you know, especially IJ and IJN, I play large, full-size veteran infantry rifle squads, and all my support weapons are generally infantry-based, like light mortars, AT rifle teams, lunge mines. If I do take vehicles, they're generally pretty small and light. Now, my tank-heavy army, I do have a tank-heavy army. In order to do that, I lean more towards inexperienced, and I like to go light or medium tanks. And for infantry, I'll do the bare minimum. Basically just what's needed to capture objectives. And for that, I use militia riflemen, and I just make sure I put Kipatai with them. Now, a balanced army, for me, how do I feel like it's balanced? I look at I imagine the board in three zones, like a three-pronged, like a trident kind of. Like you have the center lane, the left lane, and the right lane. To me, what would be balanced if you have enough armored support, actual armored vehicles, not just my fast attack trucks, like my AA trucks, and my light trucks and mini machine guns, my gun trucks, but do you have enough actual armor on the table to protect your troops as they run up the board and draw fire? And can you do that on all three lanes? So to me, a balanced list would require at least three types. At least 3 tanks of 7 or preferably 8+ armor or above. That way you can actually run each lane efficiently. Yeah, sure. Sean, let me take a look at these things. Oh, they look great. I love the head on the back. I save those heads and I put them on my my Rhino transport. But I love that you're using it. I think it looks great, man. Oh, I love the little Necron skulls on the bottom too. Or the little silver skulls, that's great. It's actually one of my favorite orc heads. The big like long neck style or longhorn style helmet. Hey, what's going on, Nathan? Actually, I had an idea, Squigger and Sean. Feel free to make fun of it. For basing, I was gonna for kill team. I was also gonna make a infantry Imperial Guard veteran squad. You know, using my convicts or whatever for the Penal Legion. For basing, I was thinking about what if I you know glued them to the base and covered the rest of the base. And hear me out. I'm just trying to think of like a good medium. What if I covered it in kitty litter and then spray painted it like gray, so it's almost like small moon rocks? Like, would that give kind of like a lunar or like barren planet moon style basing, you think? I don't have cats, so I actually do not know what kitty litter really looks like, but I feel like that might give me the desired result to go for like a bunch of small rocks. Too big. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, yeah, it's a fair point. It's absorbent, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, there you go. Now it makes sense why that wouldn't work. Okay, I just gotta find some kind of small rocks then. Alright. Thanks. I'm always on the hunt for like new clever basing ideas. So far, I'm really liking the cork effects for my orcs for Badlands. I think it works pretty decent. There we go. Fish tank gravel. Yep, there we go. I think that's what I was looking for. I appreciate you mentioning that. I think that's what I'm trying to go for. Good call. Good call, Sean. Oh, and I had another question. I asked it in Mornian's Discord, but I don't think I got the info back. Let me see if anyone answered me first before I double ask it. Oh yeah, looks like someone did answer me. Okay. Okay, cool. Someone did answer me, but alright, here's my question for you painting gurus. For my red orc trucks. Now, remember, they're on the kind of like a desert badland style planet, right? Very tan. So for my red painted orc trucks, what kind of Citadel brand wash should I use? I'm thinking Agrax Earthshade. I asked this on another stream, and that's what they said. But I know there's also like a red blood style wash. I'm curious if that would look better. Like I still put Nolan oil like on all the metal stuff. I'm talking about for the actual red paint job of the whip. None. Okay. Okay. That's a good point. I like that. Yeah, so some people said Septum Sepia. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I may leave it as is. I was just kind of curious if I should put a wash on them or not. You should just lick it. That's funny. Yeah, no, I agree. I think none might be the better answer. You know, I kind of like that they're, kind of like the red lick to them. I just wasn't sure if I should try and do wash or not. I was playing the completely woefully underrated video game Mad Max in between work and the stream, and I was paying attention, looking at some of the vehicles, trying to get some ideas. Do you guys also do that? Do you guys like playing, like, what, depending on what army you're working on, do you like playing video games like kind of roughly in the same genre and to get like some design ideas from it? Has there been any update on the 40K show? I think Amazon was doing it with Henry Cavill. Heard like up and down rumors about it being canceled, not being canceled, about having this, not having that, you know? Oh yeah, CB Cooper, I bet using the new Mad Max inspiration, especially for like all different types of jackal and like bike riders and stuff. Oh yeah, 100%. They ran out of budget because you wanted everyone to have a combat patrol. I believe that. You know, it's funny. I actually, what I was watching some videos as I was playing. What I hear good things about, not as much about combat patrol, but I hear good things. I'm not really an AOS player, but I hear good things about Spearhead. I hear Spearhead is kind of what they. Spearhead is succeeding in AOS where they want combat patrol to succeed in Warhammer 40K, but it's not. That's just some people's opinions that I've been reading a lot online and hearing. What do you guys think? Any of you guys do Spearhead for AOS? Dope. I'm always kind of curious. Like I said, I think I really enjoy smaller scale tabletop games. I think it's not just for the speed of play, but I think it's for, I don't know. Not sure why I do. I just always kind of enjoy smaller scale stuff. That being said, you know, on the far opposite, Francois, I'm with you. I do enjoy a damn good apocalypse game too. Well, it's one of the things. Yeah, I either like, you know, one or the other. I like either, you know, small unit company platoon level tactics, or, you know, I'm there all day. You know, let's get our food and everything, and let's set up and just play all damn day. That's why it's a shame I don't have the hobby room or the time for Old World. I'm definitely missing a rank and flank game in my tabletop library here, but I just don't think I have the brain capacity or the storage space right now for a whole big ass rank and flank army. Maybe one day. I say that, but I think if GW wanted to make money and released a full-on vampire count or a vampire coast army, you know, I think I would definitely get it. Hey, what's going on, man? Welcome to the stream, buddy. We are just working on our motor pool, trying to crank out these trucks and Jeeps as fast as we can. We do have a master Jeep finish, that way I have something to kind of go off of when I do the other Jeeps. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Sean, I actually do pink on my lights before I paint them yellow now, so I appreciate that. Yep, still working on the Timu trucks. Hopefully to get them finished and get the Jeeps finished. And then I just gotta finish a couple more of the infantry and my army will be done. The game's on the 18th, so I need to hurry up and get these guys done, you know? That's what I think I'm seeing, CV Cooper. That spearhead just seemed like a little bit more balanced or more geared towards that playstyle. They're, as far as like heavy tanks, no, not really. Like lore wise, did they kind of, but all their advanced heavy or even bigger medium-sized tanks, they never left the mainland. They all stayed on the mainland of Japan preparing for the final invasion, so they never got used. There is technically the Japanese Tiger. You know, the Imperial Empire of Japan did purchase one of the Tigers from Germany, but when they're shipping it to get ready to go to Japan is when Normandy happened, and so Germany's like, yeah, we know you already paid for this tank, but we'll give you another one, and they just took that tank and just tried to mobilize it to go to the fucking France to try and repel the invasion. So Japan never even got their Tiger. I mean, there are some, like, I guess, big-sized tanks going to be... I mean, there's the... I think it's not the Type 2, it's the bigger floating tank. It's like the upgraded version. I think it's like the Type 3. So it's like a Type 2 Kami, just a little bit bigger and better. Okay, let me take a look. I want to see what this Agrax Earthshade looks like. Okay, thanks for that picture, Stevie Coach. Yeah, I may just put it like on the tires or something like that, you know, or like on the bottom parts of the car where like the sand kicks up, like in the crevices. That might be a better idea. Yeah, so there was a Type 3 Kachi. So the Kami is the Type 2, the smaller one, but the Kachi is actually an amphibious medium tank. There was not a lot of them made. Let me see how many there were. Yeah, they only built like 19 of them. But they did have the bigger 47mm gun, and they did have multiple medium machine guns on it. But yeah, they were not very common at all. But that's probably like the biggest, quote-unquote, like, size-wise, it's probably the biggest tanks that the Imperial Japanese deployed off the mainland. And even then, there weren't that many of them. Man, I should get some Kachis. Yeah, I need to get some Kachis for the, my IJ Enforce. Thanks for that, Minir, I appreciate that. I need to add those tanks for my Imperial Japanese Navy guys. No, I appreciate the question, because it gets me to learn too. Like, I know a little bit of it. I know enough to know, like, what to look for, you know? Like, I know roughly the name of it in my head, but I actually have to go look up what the number is or, like, how many were made. But that's something I'm finding that's a lot of fun about kind of focusing more on the Pacific part of World War II for bolt action, is there's just not a lot of information out there. Or there, let me rephrase that. That's not correct. That was shitty of me. There is a lot of information out there, it's just not as readily commonly known, particularly by Americans. The Imperial Japanese did a good job of hiding a lot of their information, and a lot of it got lost in translation, you know, because there's a lot more American service members who spoke German or Italian than there were who spoke Japanese. So a lot of misnomers, a lot of misinformation. Oops, sorry. Fix my face. So with that being said, there's a lot of common misconceptions about the Imperial Japanese and some other stuff, so it's kind of fun to go out there and do a lot more research. I've learned a lot more about it just by doing lots and lots of research, lots of reading. I think I have. If not, I'll take a look. Dan Carlin, I'll take a look at that. Okay, the chat's not displaying on... Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, cool. There we go. I had to look up what a BT-42 was. I never even heard of that, but it looks awesome, man. It almost looks like an enclosed Imperial Japanese self-propelled gun, like a Honi. That's actually really cool. Yes, exactly true. Don't trust Tiki history. He is absolutely a liar. 100%. Speaking of which, the students who were in that photography class have finished, and now I have the ability to go back into my Adobe Premiere without having to accidentally kick one of those poor kids out while they're working on their project, so hopefully I'll get some more videos out here soon. But I'm also starting... my maritime class. So, you know, with that being said... I will be super busy on that. This is probably my busiest time of the year. And then once I finish this army for Fall Berlin, I'll probably be working on my IJN and my orcs, and building up terrain for the Clash of the Caribbean event, making sure I have, you know, 3 really, really good tables. RK, I have 3 swim wagons if you want them. I'm not sure if they're, you know, if they'll work for your fins or not. Always gonna use them for this army. You know, it's like captured cars, but luckily I got a deal on the Jeeps, so I just used 5 Jeeps. Nothing off the top of my head, okay? Listen, if you ever pick up a set and have some spare Japanese lying around, or Imperial Japanese, I'll definitely trade you for that, but no, man. Like I said, I'm pretty sure we're going to be knowing each other for a while and playing games, you know, because I go up near your area all the time on my way up to visit in-laws, you know, so I'm pretty sure we'll see each other a couple times here and there, so don't worry about it. I have had these swim wagon kits since 8th edition, when I was trying to convert my Imperial Guard army that was themed off Imperial Navy pioneers into an Elysian force for 8th edition using Imperial armor. They were going to be my my Tauroxes. Not Tauroxes, Tauroses. Yeah, so I just did like, I'm still doing batch painting, but I did like broad strokes on all these trucks with the wall flesh. Now I'm just going back and getting the finer details of it. And yeah, priming the... I don't know why I primed the first truck tan. That was dumb. Priming these Death Guard green was actually a hell of a lot better. Oh yeah, so I'm trying to think of the. That's a good question. Sorry, Minir, I just saw that. Did the Imperial Japanese, as far as land battleship, were you talking about long tanks with multiple turrets? So in the interwar period before they invaded the Chinese mainland, they did purchase a bunch of tanks from World War I and try a lot of them out. I think they may have grabbed a multi-turreted one. I'm not sure. They really like the French Renaults, if that's how you pronounce them, or Renault, whatever it is. They really like the Cartloyd, the British tanks, like the Whippets. They really like the British Whippet tanks. But they're one of the first ones who figured out they had a bad incident. I always say this because one of the things the Imperial Japanese Army is known for, as far as tank innovation. They had a huge problem when they got one of the British. I want to say it was a British Whippet tank, and it was a gasoline petrol powered, and it caught fire and it burnt the crew alive. And the Imperial Japanese Army was like, "Oh fuck that!" And so they immediately swapped to diesel engines. So they're one of the first major powers that 100% swapped all their tanks to diesel engines. Like fuck that. But I'll have to take a look. I know the Igo. The Igo is probably the first mass-produced Imperial Japanese tank. It's like a bigger, slower, fatter Hago. You still saw them a lot in use, mostly by the IJN, because they built, they kind of deployed the Imperial Japanese Army, or Imperial Japanese in general. They kind of deployed their tanks. If you ever read the book Ender's Game, very similar to Ender's Game. So they cranked out a lot of their early war stuff and sent it everywhere. And then as they cranked out newer stuff, they didn't send it as far out. They kept it kind of closer to home, you know, to protect the mainlands or protect other vital islands. So usually the IJN, who were like the furthest out, protecting all the different embassies and ports, they generally had the oldest armored vehicles until they, you know, used their own money to develop the Kamis and the Kachis, the swim tanks. That's why you see them have like old Vickers armored cars and, you know, little female machine gun tanks, like little tankettes and whippets, and you know, later on the Igos. So the Imperial Japanese Navy all the way the fuck out, BFE, the Special Naval Landing Force guys, always had like the oldest shit. You know, they use a lot of Type 94 tankettes, or I like to call the Type 94 an armored tractor instead of a tankette, because that's really what it is. When you call the Type 94 a tankette, it kind of mislabels what it was. The whole point of the Type 94 was it was an armored tractor, and it could pull a trailer behind it, either for, you know, flamethrower purposes, chemical sprayer purposes, or just like a resupply in the field. It could actually carry an armored trailer behind it and carry stuff to the troops. Super useful in China where there's no roads, or where there were not a lot of roads. But you see the IJN and the SNILF have a lot of older tech, where a lot of the newer tank tech went to the army, but you only saw it in the islands closer to Japan. So it's kind of like the closer you got to mainland Japan, the newer vehicles you kind of ran into. So as far as if you're looking for like big land battleships, yeah, I would look at. I'll have to take a look. I feel like they maybe bought one or two, but I'll have to take a look. far as multi-turret, the only thing multi-turreted, I don't think so. If they did, it was probably like still late in production. It was probably stuck in production. Like they may have built like you said a Type 95 Rogo. That might be what you're looking for. It doesn't sound super familiar to me, so that makes me think that it's likely a production one, like a late war tank that never came out, maybe, or a big ass heavy tank. It's either that's either sounds like a late war tank or maybe like a, well, no, 95. So 95 would put it around early 30s, so that's probably a prototype tank. Yes. So that is something I always say. It's not. I appreciate you guys being awesome. You guys being understanding. Like you're a cool chat. You're not gonna be like, oh my god, this is what he said. Take it out of context, kind of thing. But when you look at it historically, not saying it's right or wrong before anyone freaks out. Just historically, the Imperial Japanese approach in the World War II era, you know, from 1931 on, their whole idea was like, hey, during World War I, they fought on the side of the Allies, they fought against the Germans, and they snatched up some islands from the Germans. And nobody said anything, because, you know, one side lost World War I, a bunch of people took terrain, so no one said anything when Japan fought in World War I and took islands from Germany, and they're like, hey, this is awesome, we just got more islands, and nobody gave us any shit, like, this is cool. And then they just beat Russia, you know, beat the shit out of the Russian Navy, like, okay, hold on, we're getting an idea here. They noticed, and to be fair, again, this isn't taking into account war crimes or anything else, but to be fair, they noticed that a lot of Asian areas, like land masses and islands, were owned by European powers. I'm like, hold on. So how come these countries in Europe can own all these islands? Like, if anyone's gonna own these islands and build colonies or an empire, why can't it be a fellow Asian country? And so they're like, hey, after they took the island from Germany, you know, they're like, hey, we're just gonna start taking shit and just building our own colonies. Because, like, if the European powers can all have colonies, why can't we? You know, we're an empire too, right? So they just started taking shit. And then they took one thing too far and all hell broke out. So it's not a justification for what they did, it's just an interesting observation. Because that really wasn't justification. It's like, well, you guys have colonies, why can't we? And you're like, shit, yeah, well. The moral of the story is don't lose wars, basically. But then you take into account how much, like, atrocities were committed, and there's a whole other rabbit hole to tumble down as well. Yeah, so like, getting back to the point of it, RK, you're exactly right. Yeah, they're prepping to fight colonial, basically geographically separated colonial defense forces. A good example is look at the island of Java. So the Dutch East Indies were owned by, you nailed it, the Dutch. So they had a lot of Dutch colonial forces there. You know, older, smaller tanks, a whole bunch of like kind of half native, half European infantry. And so their forces were meant to strike fast and overwhelm the enemy to where they can't resupply, and they kind of just wait them out. So same thing, you take a look at a lot of their tanks, and everyone's like, oh, they had terrible tanks. Well, yes, they 100% did not plan on any tank-to-tank engagement. Nowhere in any of their doctrine that I found did they ever plan on using a tank versus a tank. They thought that was fucking dumb. Like, that's what anti-tank guns or planes are for. Like, you don't fight a tank with a tank. That's a terrible idea. So yeah, their tanks were to basically be mobile. They use tanks for infantry support. So when you look at how the the Igo, the Hago, the Chiha, where it kind of makes a little bit more sense on why they're designed for infantry support rather than fighting other tanks. Kind of similar. I don't know enough of the Italian World War II history to accurately answer that, but I did know that they did try to rapidly take terrain in Africa, but I wasn't sure what their point or purpose was behind it. I don't think they had a lot of colonial acquisition, so that might be why they were probably late to the party when everybody else carved up Africa for colonies. I don't know enough about Italy, but from what I've read so far, I think, to be fair, and nothing against the Italians being as neutral as possible, I don't think they had the infrastructure in place. I don't think they had the factories or the logistics to wage war truly outside their border. So I think them going into north, nothing against their soldiers. And when I say that, I'm not supporting one side or the other. I'm trying to view it as neutrally as possible on the quality of troops and the quality of the logistics, you know, taking all the politics out of it. I don't think Italy had the logistics or the factories, the infrastructure to really wage a world war. Now, they did have amazing stuff. I think if they would have kind of operated more simpatico with the Germans, I think it would have been a lot stronger. I think if they just would have been like almost like a satellite power with the Germans, like a true Axis, you know? I think if they just like, you know, looking at their small arms, looking at their submachine guns, their aircraft. I think if Italy would have focused more on cranking out medium to heavy bombers to supplement the German Air Force, I think that would have drastically affected the Battle of Berlin. Italian aviation. That's something I do know about because I hung out with a lot of ITAF guys. Italian aviation in World War II was actually really good. They had really good medium bombers and damn decent fighters, surprisingly. I think it's something that's going to talk about often. But yeah, I think if they would have operated more combined with German forces, I think it would have been a lot more effective. But sending them off on their own, I think that was a mistake. And same thing. I think that might have been one of the other reasons. They have a good, even now they have a decent military. Like they're trained well. They do have pride. But yeah, it's just wildly different from the same type of mentality that the Germans had. I felt like if you would have used the Italian military for things they're good at, and what I mean by that is, you know, tell them to stop producing tanks and armored cars, maybe armored cars, but save the war material for making tanks. The one thing I would have used them for, nothing against Germans, the German military at the time said, but I feel like if they would have focused on utilizing the Italian Alpini, sorry, the name escaped me, but if they focused on using the Italian mountain troops, which were they're still best in their class. Like to this day, American 10th Mountain guys still go and learn from the Italian Alpini. Like these guys are like the kings of mountain warfare, right? Other than maybe the Nepalese. But yeah, if they would have used them, if you would have just put the right tool in the right, you know, situation, I felt like it would have been a little bit more effective. Well, of course embrace the four-arm emperor, for he embraces you with all four of his holy arms. I still think that's the best interpretation of the emperor, not the jump from like one genre to another. But I feel like him being like a star child, him having some like Tyranid in him kind of makes the most sense. Yes, CB Cooper, and I have been in the Dolomites. Granted, I'm talking at the foot of the Dolomites, and it was still tough. When I was stationed in northern Italy, that used to be like one of our favorite things of like PT. Is like on days off we would just go like climbing, not like actual like mountain climbing, but literally just almost like bouldering, but just making our way, you know, up to the edge of the tree line from the base. I mean, that is an intense area. It was always a good workout. No, I think there was a lot of, and it's easy for me to look back and say it comfortably from my chair. You know, like, where's this? 80 years later, you know, in the future. But I think there was a lot of mistakes made by different countries in World War II. You know, strategic errors. But obviously that's Monday morning quarterbacking, you know. Like, what if the Germans kept innovating their aircraft? Like, less with jet propulsion, but like more heavy bombers. You know, with the Battle of Berlin, it turned out differently. They actually had heavy bombers. One thing I don't know about, and it's going on my list of World War II stuff to research about, is I think maybe like many other people, but maybe it's just me and my own blind spot, but I always forget about the Spanish. Like, I know obviously the Germans got involved in the Spanish Civil War, you know, with the Condor Legion and stuff like that. You know, I actually really like that Picasso painting. It's hauntingly good. But I always forget about what did the Spanish do after that. Like, what were the Spanish involved in World War II? I always forget about that. That may be a bolt action project for me, you know? Yeah, I may have to look up the Blue Division. I've heard something about that. Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good news. I may have to pick up the Compendium then. Were they neutral? Are we talking like Switzerland neutral? Or are we talking like Ireland neutral in World War II? So see, again, RK, if that's true, that's the part that drives me insane, right? Like, I know he needed manpower on the Eastern Front, but if you know the Americans are going to eventually land, right, and you know the Americans are also fighting your meat shields in the East, the Empire of Japan, wouldn't you deploy your Spanish nationals, and I'm just spitballing here, right? Wouldn't you put them on U-boats, right? And dump them in the Caribbean and Central America to like sabotage the Panama Canal and fuck with the oil refinery in Aruba? Again, I'm not trying to be, hopefully I don't come off as bigoted, I'm just spitballing here, right? But if you have guys who are generally fair-skinned or lighter-skinned because they are European-style Spanish, you know, but they can speak Spanish, maybe pass a little bit easier as natives of that area, you know, and speak the language when you drop them off in Central America and the Caribbean to actually cause havoc for the Americans. All right, Bad Rabbit. Hey, man, thanks for joining as always. And like I said, once I have the website up for Clash of the Caribbean, I'll send it to you. But just know we have a soft confirmation of all 6 players. So I'm excited for the cruise, Bad Rabbit. Take it easy, brother. Yeah, that's going to be a fun little research project. Find out a lot more about the Spanish in World War II. Yeah, it's 100% going to be a blast, man. 3 small 4x4 tables and 6 people playing. Calcutta White Horse, I absolutely will. Thanks, RK, I appreciate it. And excitingly enough, one of the cruise channels I actually trust and value the opinion of just recently went back on the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, and he said it's been drastically rehauled, and it's a lot better than it used to be. And I still thought it was decent good when I was on it, especially for the price. So that's always a good thing. It's always good to hear a trusted review that the ship's done a lot of improvement. I'm excited. I'm working out the time schedule now. I think, you know, on the first day when we board, you know, after we depart, we'll probably hold like a, you know, two small or 2 matches because they're 500 points. So I said I'm budgeting out like 3 hours per game, you know? So that's about 6 hours there. Toss another like hour just for a half hour before, a little bit of a break, and a half hour after kind of thing, you know? So that'll probably put us late into the night, which is perfectly fine. We'll probably play a game. Like I said, what we'll probably do is probably meet after after 6 maybe. You know, that way get you time to explore the ship, get in your room, get comfortable. You know, go to the main dining hall if you want, things like that. We'll probably meet up at 7. Like I said, yeah, maybe a little bit different. We'll probably meet up at 7, play one game, I think, because that'll put 3 hours. That'll put us into 10 o'clock. That way it gives you guys a chance to go to the show at night or go to the nightclub, which I will definitely be at drinking, or drinking out in the hot tub or stuff like that. Then the next day, you know, you wake up roughly around 11 o'clock. You should be docked in the Bahamas. And generally you come back aboard at 4 o'clock. So with that being said, we'll probably meet up at, again, 6 o'clock, and we'll probably do 2 games maybe. Yeah. Just trying to figure out, like, time-wise how we're going to end up doing this, you know? But back to get to our original point we got distracted from when we were talking. When you look at the Imperial Japanese tank design, a lot of their doctrine, it was for fighting smaller colonial powers or fighting in areas. See, I think they planned better logistically than the Italians did. They planned to fight in islands with island hopping, and they planned on fighting, you know, in mainland China where there weren't a lot of roads. So that's why they used a lot of tracked vehicles like the Type 94 and a lot of the different types of tanks. But that being said, that opened up a weakness against, you know, fully armored or mechanized troops. So when the Russians came flying down, you know, they absolutely beat the shit out of the Imperial Japanese because they did not have anything ready to repel, you know, tanks of that magnitude or that amount. And same thing when they started running into, you know, Shermans, especially late war Shermans on the islands in the late war on the Pacific side, they were absolutely getting decimated. Their tanks couldn't even do anything. Looking back on it, when the Imperial Japanese didn't send the third wave at Pearl Harbor and they didn't knock out the fuel dump, I think that was the first step of them losing the Pacific War. Ironically, it's also their opening salvo. When they lost their carriers at Midway, that was, you know, the crippling blow, but the death blow was when their admiral got shot down. It was the last thing holding the most of the government in check, you know, particularly the warring factions of the Army and the Navy. When he got shot down by the P-38s, that was it. That was 100% the death blow. Yep. Yeah, the Chaffee is legit. It's great for a light tank. Not really a lot of them got used because it was so late in the war, but yeah, that thing would have been perfect for the Pacific if they had time to ship it out there. I liked what the U.S. Marine Corps ended up doing with the Stuarts to make them useful again. You know, because a lot of people are like, oh, their guns aren't effective enough and this and that. You know, we're not talking like DACA Stuarts. We're talking like effective in like real life. Is they made them into M3 Satans. So those are the vehicles they started putting flamethrowers on. I think it's really cool. Really smart use of the Stuart platform. But yeah, same thing, Square Sean. That's my that's the area I want to do a Conflict 47 campaign in, is in South America. I want to do it as the Axis are going for different purposes. Like the Germans want to set up, you know, colonies and bunkers for the 1,000-year Reich, you know, so they can squirrel away, you know, select people for breeding and for continuing the Reich and stuff like that. Also, they're after a lot of the resources. They're after the oil of Lake Maracaibo and the rubber from the rubber trees. Same thing as the Imperial Japan, but the Empire of Japan also want to take the Panama Canal. The Americans are trying to bolster the local countries, you know, Mexico, Brazil, and some of the other ones, to try and like protect their own turf and also try and protect their own basically porch and backdoor from an invasion. So the Americans are down there fighting, mostly using a lot more of like American and British SOE and OSS type of special operations. Meanwhile, because it's Conflict 47, it's a three-way fight, I would have the Soviets down there trying to start a whole nother communist revolution in South America and the Caribbean. You know, starting with Cuba and bouncing from there to some of the other countries and trying to overthrow that whole area. That way they can have a whole new trading partner and get more grain, food, fruit, fuel, all sorts of stuff. I'm not even sure how the Germans would do that. I mean, I could see them like spreading, you know, like Totencore on the island and like blaming it on like, you know, mysticism and stuff like that and folklore and stuff like that. I'm not sure, but probably not the mummies. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting number. Squick and Sean, definitely. That's one of the other things to think about, because gold is organic to South and Central America. It's actually a decent place, you know, for the Germans to have shipped a lot of their ill-gotten gold from Europe in U-boats over to South America, because they can always melt it down. Hold on. Anyway, sorry about that. Dog was acting up. But yeah, they could take a lot of their gold that they acquired in Europe through illicit means. They could take it back to South America, melt it down, and recast it and re-smelt those golden bars. And they can even capture, you know, maybe from Spain or other stuff, you know, old types of markings on it, and just call it like old Spanish gold or old gold that came from South America from way back when. Exactly. Yeah, it's one of the few things. That's what made gold so valuable. Art's a little different because there's generally, you know, a damn, what's the term for that? Not precedent. It's the record of how. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I can't think of the term. Prominence. Yeah, the prominence. So art generally has like a prominence on it, like who owned it last, how it transferred, and stuff like that. Not that really matters in war, but gold is almost as good as bearer bonds because you can literally smelt it down and recast it into whatever you need. It's a lot easier to hide gold. Another fun thing you can do with Conflict 47 in South America and Central America is you can also have Hitler's occult division out looking for you know, Christian artifacts, you know, that may or may not have been transported by the Spanish to South America in the colonial times. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I left 4 minutes early. That's rough. How long is away from the next bus? Like 15 minutes, hopefully? Hey, what's going on, Grimton Tim? Yes, sir, we are. We're working on the motor pool. Yeah, that's also in, I think that's how Goldfinger was smuggling his gold in that James Bond movie and book. I don't know, I never read the OG Goldfinger book. I read a lot of the James Bond books, but not that one. But yeah, he was smuggling it by melting it down and putting it as parts of his car. Oh man, I'm sorry about that, buddy. Well, like I said, if it was 4 minutes early, there's nothing you could do, man. There's like no way you can have known about that. But that's one of the many things I talk about in my my maritime class, because I teach, you know, unmanned systems for maritime, so like drones, ROVs, you know, like the little submarines that found, explored the Titanic and shit like that. So I always tell them, you know, you never know, you know, law of international salvage, you could find that missing, you know, one of the many missing U-boats that's probably chock-a-block full of art and gold and valuables, you know, hermetically sealed at the bottom of the ocean, pressurized. I think my favorite Bond girl from the movies is probably going to be Christmas Jones. Hands down. Denise Richards in her prime before she went all cray-cray. Though Vesper does get a very close second. Eva Green was a knockout in that Casino Royale movie. Also, not even just looks, good dialogue. It may sound like cheesy to say, but like their quips back and forth on the train. Man, they don't write dialogue like that for movies anymore. That was damn good. There you go, got the windows ready to be painted. These 50 cals are like the bane of my existence, I keep breaking them. Well, I appreciate you guys watching and chatting. I know batch painting isn't always the most interesting thing to watch. Unfortunately, it's definitely what I need to get these guys knocked out. RK, what do you mean? Elaborate that. What do you mean for stills? Oh, are you talking? Hold on. Oh, before you say that, are you talking about like stills? Stills, like, you know? Okay, I think I may know what you mean by stills. At first, I thought you meant like still shots, but I think I know what you're talking about. Oh, okay. Yeah, I misinterpreted. I thought you meant like copper tubing stills. Okay. I honestly, dude, I went to Fiverr. I can try and find who I got on Fiverr to do it. He just made me a whole bunch of PNGs, and then I used something called VideoTube, but spelled VeadoTube. And it works well for me. I'll find the guy. I want to say I think he might have been. I think he was Malaysian, but he might also. He's either Malaysian or Sri Lankan. I can't remember. So I need to reach back out to him to get some more done, actually, so I can have some more faces. Yeah, let me know if you want me to get you share the contact info with you, RK. Since you're getting estimates done, anyways. I think I paid like maybe 60 for mine. I was gonna send him a bunch of pictures of what I want. Oh, okay. No, I got you. Never mind then. Actually, sir, I knew you were gonna jump on that, Sean. No, I had multiple work done, so I the guy who designed my other emblem, my the one that has me in a Fallout suit with my dog. One of them was from Malaysia, and the one who did my Tiki mask was from Sri Lanka. I was trying to remember which one I ordered from for which item. Before you try and come at me sideways, clown. Yeah, as I said it too, CB, I was like, oh, he's gonna jump on this, watch. It's not a question of mixing up the respective islands, it was a question of which one did I order from. So I got them roughly at the same time. What, calling the kettle Asian? I noticed you're just going, all you're doing is just going north on your geography. I'm no longer going to comment if you're getting closer now. I neither confirm nor deny. I know, right? These Temu trucks, man, they're cheap. If it makes you feel better, some guy was literally trying to sell these things, quote unquote painted, fully painted with some stickers on them for 16 bucks a pop. American, it's insane. No, these are not official. These are what we call the Temu trucks, or the Alibaba trucks, depending where you get them from. They look like an amalgamation between like Opel Blitzes, Italian trucks, a little bit of the Isuzu tire placement. It's like an amalgamation of like 4 different types of trucks, and they're actually a little bit bigger than what they need to be. So you really can't run these as light trucks. Like, let me see if I have a. Hold on. Alright, so here's the here are some Italian trucks that I use as my light trucks for the IJA. Here they are side by side with these Temu trucks. Hold on. You can see how much bigger this thing. I'm trying not to crush any more of my 50 cals. Yeah, you can see how much bigger they are. Yeah, so I mean, scale-wise, like big picture, they're perfectly okay. Unless you're using them for like a light truck, then it's gonna kind of maybe raise questions. But it's a great way to get additional trucks, and that's what you were playing with, like anyone using a motorized force. Yeah, it does work. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like you can even just paint them as like civilian trucks and use them for terrain too. These long barrel 50 cals are going to be the death of me, I'm telling you. Yeah, you can also cover the bed, you know, like, and turn it into like an ambulance or a medical truck. You know, you can do all sorts of cool stuff. Equip and destroy boys. Yeah, exactly. So it really fitted well for my my 83rd infantry in people tune, because yeah, it just looks like some kind of random European truck, so it works well. The fact that they weren't American trucks actually made it look better, because otherwise I would have got like a whole bunch of like Opel Blitzes, you know. I'm sorry about that. I was sitting there, I was like, man, it's kind of quiet. I was like, oh god, I'm muted. Sorry about that. I was just doing the finer touches on the cab of that truck going onto the back part. Yeah, I don't know. I think when I'm done with this, like I said, I'm giving the Jeeps and the troops away, but I think I'm just going to cut the 50 cals off these trucks and just use these trucks as like civilian transports, you know? I may keep a few of them. How are your fins looking, RK? Just about getting caught up on them. How'd your steel gray top and blue pants come out? I'm kind of excited to see that paint scheme. Alright. We are making progress on these trucks. Slowly but surely. So once we get all the green in, then we're gonna go back and hit the we're just doing it by the colors. You know, after this we'll probably hop on to the black, then the blue, then the gray, then the silver, and that'll be done. See how the pole's doing. Alright, looks like so far 55% go for balanced armies. Interesting, no one's really going for tank heavy armies in 3rd edition. I thought they would. That is truly interesting. So what are some more of y'all's like insider paint tips that you want to share? Is there any like crazy stuff you do? Like do you maybe like warm up your paints before you use them to get them to flow better? Do you mix in a little bit of like thinner or water or mineral spirits? Like what are some of your, they may not be effective, maybe it's just like superstition. Like what are some of your painting superstitions or insider tips you guys got? That's a fair point. Yeah, you know, I guess you're right. It is targeted towards the audience. Maybe this audience doesn't take a lot of heavy tanks, but you know, other competitions maybe they do. Infantry win games, man. 100%. And I am so very glad for that rule, Arcade. I'm glad that tanks cannot capture objectives. Yeah, I've seen the T-26s. That is actually a pretty cool kit. Grim tip. I see where you'd say that. That's it's an interesting meta. Mechanized infantry, like armored fist, with a bunch of half tracks and heavier tanks. Almost like it's set up for the Germans. I mean, I don't blame Warlord Games for making the Germans just a little bit more powerful. In my opinion, I think it's a good idea because, to be fair, yeah, German tanks, you know, if you're painting something for aesthetics, you know, or building models and stuff like that, I mean, people buy German tanks even just outside of bolt action, you know, so there's good money to be made there, and I think it's always good to have, like, your main bad guy faction be a little bit powerful, that way people actually play them. Because if all your tabletop bolt action games just look like Americans versus British all the time, you know, or stuff like that, I don't think it would be as fun or as looking as good as tabletop. I think that's why most people own like a German army. Like most players that have multiple armies, that one of them is probably German, you know. Yes, they did. Yeah, they revolutionized frontline leadership too. You know, with their reliance upon trained and experienced non-commissioned officers and flexibility in the field. I said flexibility, not like American flexibility, but you know, as far as not relying solely upon commissioned officers. Then you get the Americans who just take the whole doctrine book, just throw it out the fucking window. Yeah, like I said, I just naturally expect the Germans and the British to be a little bit stronger than all the other factions. That's never bothered me. I mean, it makes sense. It's a British company, you know. Germans are the main adversary. Like, those two things make a lot of sense. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna try and have as much fun as I can as a Imperial Japanese player before the book comes out, because at least right now, even though they're a little bit under strength, no one can call, you know, the Imperial Japanese, you know, overpowered or, you know, metagaming for running any kind of list. There's nothing the Imperial Japanese have that I'm aware of that could be spammable in 3rd edition that would make them overpowered. They're pretty just normal. Yeah. I want to say Lindy Beige does a really good topic about something similar to that, CB Cooper, about how the platoon, there's a reason why the platoon is emulated in most militaries the world over, is it's naturally about the largest size that a single competent human leader can actually command. Like, when you're in charge of a platoon looking at about 60 guys, you can truly get to know all 60 of those guys. Like, a platoon leader really does act as a frontline leader. They actually know all 60 of those guys, their limiting factors, their advantages, their strengths, their weaknesses, and stuff like that. Once you get higher than that, once you start running multiple platoons at what we'll call like the company or squadron or troop or battery level, you know, that's when you're kind of leading leaders. You're no longer leading the actual men themselves, the enlisted men. Now, the French have been revolutionizing infantry tactics long before World War I, World War II. I mean, that's going all the way back. But yeah, definitely. I see what you're saying about that. Yeah, they are kind of overlooked. One thing I think is really overlooked, one of the cool battles that doesn't get talked about enough in World War II, is the Italian quote-unquote special forces. The Italians really kind of pioneering underwater operations and underwater combat, not with submarines, but, you know, with actual swimmers and divers and, you know, manned torpedoes or mini subs, basically. You look at the Italian scuba assault on the port of, I think it's Alexandria. Yeah, they actually did some serious damage to the British Navy with just a handful of trained divers. I mean, if you were to read it and just change some of the stuff around and change the date, it sounds like a modern day Navy SEAL operation. It was wildly effective. Yeah, they ended up catching some of the divers later on, like, cause I mean, it was a mission accomplished. I think they crippled a warship and like sunk, I think maybe 2 supply ships. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, I can't really think what it was. But you know, later on they caught him and the commander's like, yeah, that was us, and they just absolutely surrendered. Not like in a cowardly way, it's just that once they did that, you know, they're not carrying any weapons. They changed out of their dive suits and just put on civilian clothes and tried to walk away, and they got caught. You know, so it's like, yeah, what the hell am I gonna do, you know? Other armies I'm working on for bolt action, I am using, I'll show you. I'm going to be using this Wargame Atlantic. Oh man, I don't want to move these trucks. The last thing I'm going to do is break more 50 cows. Bane of my existence. We just pull out a sprue. Oh, I just realized that whole time I was muted. Ugh. Damn. So, yeah, I'll be using these World War I Russian from Wargame Atlantic. I like them because they actually have the tall boots. So I can do tall black boots. I can have blue uniforms. This little cross part right here where they keep a lot of their, you know, their blanket where they keep all their supplies. I'm not going to paint that like an actual life preserver or like a life jacket. Also, it kind of has the actual like combo cover style hats for the naval officers, and it even has more saber type swords for the Imperial Japanese Navy versus the katanas that they're supposed to carry. And then, so I'm working on that for my Imperial Japanese Navy, and I'll show you the other part I'm working on for my Imperial Japanese Army. So for my Imperial Japanese Army, I'm working on my tank heavy list that has 8 tanks. They're all inexperienced. So for troops, I had to take militia riflemen. So for my militia riflemen, I'm actually doing, these are my native militia riflemen for my Imperial Japanese Army. You know, so they all have different types of colonial rifles. They have like little shields. Their shields are actually going to be from sake barrels. So they're going to have like, you know, sake written on them and stuff like that. I'm going to paint them all up. These are going to be like my little Tiki natives on the island and stuff like that. So these are going to be my militia riflemen. And then the other force I'm working on is my treasure hunters. So it's kind of based off like Rick O'Connell, you know, like the Mummy, based off Indiana Jones, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's an airborne American army, lots of forward observers, lots of aircraft, and each of the different platoons all have a different Crimson Skies air pirate gang. It's like one's the Fortune Hunters, one's the Raging Cajuns, and one of them's the Broadway Bombers. Hey, what's going on, Joe? How you doing, buddy? Good morning, sir. We're just over here talking about different armies that we're working on, so I showed him some of my projects. I'm currently trying to finish up all my trucks, getting ready for my Battle of Berlin. You can tell a lot of trucks with heavy machine guns, a lot of Jeeps with heavy machine guns. Absolutely, Joe. I will be there, man. I just did a 500-point game with Doc Ginger. We actually had a lot of fun. I'll try and get another army painted. Because what we did is I only had my Imperial Japanese, so it was like Imperial Japanese Navy versus Army. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun game. But I'll see if I can get another army painted for you. But yeah, man, I'm happy to play a game with you when you come down. Yeah, right now we're just doing it. It's a little boring, but we're just doing batch painting. It's the speediest way to kind of get all these things knocked out. Yeah, what's your Cooper's Company? You're in for life. Yeah, don't forget your Mother's Day. Give him a call. Say thanks. I did. I watch Ed Scar stuff, Crimson Tim. I thought it was great. You can see I looked at comment, because I guess his buddy was playing Imperial Japanese. I was like, oh, I want to see his army. He's like, oh, you're rooting for the wrong guy. I was like, I always root for Imperial Japanese. But, yeah, his idea of, so for you guys who see Grim Tim Tim's comment, Ed Scar did this really cool event. It's crazy to think about. It's 750 points, but you have a 12 order dice minimum. It's a really cool idea, and they weren't allowed to take anything heavier than 7-up armor, you know, like half tracks and stuff like that. So it was definitely an infantry focused game. lots of inexperienced troops and stuff like that. It looks like it was a lot of fun. That is something I may poach that style, just do something fun locally. You know, that may be my winter event that I do here in Tampa. We may do a 750 point, 12 order dice minimum. That looks like an absolute lot of fun. Nathan, you cracked me up. No, yeah. So far, what I've met's been pretty normal. You know, I'm happily don't think I'll ever get that big, Nathan. So I don't think that's ever going to be an issue. You know, I don't post regularly enough. You know, the algorithm's not a fan, but I'm super content with that because, like I said, even these streams, you know, like even right now we have like 25 people in the stream. It's absolutely insane. So, like, there's 25 people in the stream right now. For, like, the size of my channel, it's absolutely insane. That's just a testament to how awesome and loyal you guys are, which I appreciate. But, like, again, I don't think this channel will ever be big, and I'm totally okay with that. I like what we have. You know, I like the hours that we do this. Super, super happy. Oh, Squid Cutter Sean, that's why you always take the Kyber Pass. You'll be fine. Don't worry about the temperature. Bonsai indeed, Francois. Bonsai, guys. Yeah, me and Ed were talking about that before he did it. I thought it was a cool thing when I heard about it. I was like, oh my god, that is so cool. 750 and a minimum order dice of 12. That's a really cool concept. That probably definitely threw like min-maxers for a loop. Oh man, I'm glad it's the same hours you keep, CB Cooper. That's awesome. So just a heads up before you click on mystery links, those are two YouTube videos of two recent people who have done a review for the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. That's the ship we'll be doing the Clash of the Caribbean cruise on. We already so far have our 6 people who will be participating in the event, but you know, anyone's always welcome if you guys want to come on board for the cruise itself. You know, I'll still be hosting, you know, Conflict 47 demo games during the shore excursion hours. You know, from like 11 to 4 or 5 on the second day. But now both of those people I think were invited by Margaritaville at Sea, you know, so they were given like, you know, VIP pass and stuff like that. They still have to pay for their cruise, but just a heads up. So, you know, anytime you get like free stuff, it can always taint your opinion, I guess. But the female, the first video, she does a good job of showing the whole ship. So, super excited for the Clash of the Caribbean. It's gonna be my first big event, actually first ever event. I'm like super excited and nervous. For those of you who don't know about it, because I talk about it a lot, the cool thing about the whole idea about it came about when I was trying to look to get tickets to Adepticon, and I saw like, you know, travel plus hotel plus, you know, fees to get in. I was like, oh my god, I wish it was all just like included. I was like, oh my god, a cruise ship's included. This is where I got the idea. Yeah, supposedly it should drop somewhere around October time. That's what I'm hearing. So we may be able to be doing demo games of Comic 47 on the second day. So that's why I went particularly with that ship on the 2-day sailings. The price for an interior room, you know, is about the same price as probably getting like a new editions of Warhammer 40k, you know, somewhere around like the $200-$300 range. So not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but also not exorbitantly crazy out of reach like some of the other cruises, because it's only a 2-day thing. So with, you know, room and board for 2 days plus meals for 2 days, you know, and everybody's already on the ship, so you don't have to worry about like getting stuck in traffic or getting, you know, something happening in your hotel room or anything like that. It seemed like a really easy way to kind of run a tabletop event, you know, take out a lot of the variables. Luckily, this is one of the few ships that actually still has like a library, so we'll be doing it in the library, kind of like a Murder and Clue, you know, with the candlestick. And because we only have 6 players, so I think it should be fine. But later, if the event does get successful and does get a lot of traction and gets bigger, I think I'll actually have to rent out the conference room, which is a shame because it doesn't have windows, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose. The reason why I planned in October is that's around their slow season, so there won't be a lot of people on board. Number 2, I wanted to do October to try and entice some of the snowbirds from up north to kind of come down, you know, because that's when it starts getting a little bit cooler up north, that we can still have one last hurrah, come down here, go down to the Caribbean where it's a little bit warmer, you know. Who knows, maybe in the future we'll be able to get some of our crowned subjects from across the pond come over and attend. That'd be pretty neat. But yeah, in October, that ship should be September or October. It's almost a ghost town, which is perfect for us. Plenty of room. Because we may be able to also commandeer some of the ping pong tables up on the main deck and actually play outside if the weather's good. And I have decided. Oh, no, okay, never mind. I almost said something, but it's a surprise, so I'll hold off on that. Oof. Almost got me. I was half awake. I almost let a surprise slip. Gotta keep some things under my Tiki mask, you know? Oh yeah, your fins are looking good. Okay. Saw the picture, they're looking good, man. Not that type of Singapore ping pong, Sean. You have to keep all hands and feet on the floor at all times. Or all your feet on the floor, I guess, not your hands. Tiki was folding under no pressure. Exactly. yeah, super excited. You know, 6 people have already. Well, I think 2 people have bought tickets, and the other 4 people are seriously considering it, and they're going to buy tickets when they're ready. And that's awesome. No rush at all, truly. But I didn't think I'd even get that many people interested, so it's super cool. I'm pretty amazed, pretty excited. Trying to think what 3 tables I want to make. I'm gonna make I'm thinking jungle ruins, an airfield, and probably I think maybe like a river village. I think those are the 3 things I'm gonna go for. Like a nice river village, lots of bridges, lots of rivers, you know, lots of little boats, like little sampans you can use. Hey, again, yeah, don't rush. Okay, you're already traveling around a bunch. It's not. It's. Oh, I say it's in October. It's not going anywhere. But I just want to hold the spot for the people who say they're gonna go first. You know, that way it's not like someone else like, oh hey, I want to go. I'm like, I already have my 6. You know. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do like a river fishing village. I'm gonna do an airfield, a small airfield, and I think I'll do jungle ruins. And one of the missions is definitely going to be the Bad Habit version of Top Secret. That's definitely going to be on one of the maps. Probably the Jungle Ruins. Maybe the Fishing Village. Yeah, and right now the only 3 rules, because I'm still writing the pack, because I'm still working on the website. But right now for the rules pack, the 3 big rules are, for your army list is 500 points, and that's the only thing we're super strict on. Or that's one of the things we're super strict on. Can't be a point over. It can be under, but it cannot be over. So 500 points, no dice cap, no vehicle with armor value 7 greater than 7+. And you can use any Warlord Games book. I mean, I don't even care if you use the compendium, that's fine. So yeah, it has to be a Warlord Games book for 3rd edition. So it can be the core book, the Armies of, or even the compendium, I don't mind. Yes, yeah. Yeah, no vehicle with 7 up or higher. No, that was funny when you did that. It cracked me up 1 point over. That was really funny. But so the reason why I stand on the whole points limit, not to go into another rant, is it forces you, or it forces the player to, you know, weigh what they have and make pros and con choices. You know what I mean? And it's the first thing you do. You know, it's like when you look at an army and you're building an army. Like I've done it too, where I've ended up with like 502 points, and I'm like, shit, what do I have to get rid of? Like, oh, I have to get rid of something, you know, or I have to balance it out differently. I feel like when you're just like a few points over, that just means that you didn't sacrifice something. You're like, ah, no, that's good enough. You know, I still want all the things I want without really giving up anything. That's why I like 750 point games, because a 750 point game, you really have to take a look at your list and make a lot of cuts, you know? Because it's between 500 and 1,000. I like enforcing point limits, because it really forces you to make a choice ahead of time of what unit you want to take in your list. It's not just like, I'm a few points over, that'll be fine. No, you have to go back and chop something or redo something, you know? Oh no, I hope not negatively, RK. That's just like I said. That's just my mentality. I don't think it's the right answer. It's just my style. But that is why, like, I think quote unquote competitive wise, I do like 750 points, because it's kind of like if you took back in the day, like in the military PT test, some faction or some branches had you running a mile, some branches had you running 3 miles or like a 5K, but the Air Force had you run a mile and a half, which is such a good test because it is a pain. If you've ever done running, a mile and a half is a pain in the ass, and the reason why I say that is it's too short to like pace yourself out like a long run, like a nice comfortable 5K, but it's too long to just sprint like balls out. So a mile and a half was a good test of, your running ability and your overall stamina and fitness, because it was such a pain in the ass distance. That's the same reason why I like 750. It's 500 plus a decent tank, or it's taking your 1,000-point army and chopping a hell of a lot out of it to make that 750. It's very hard to have that perfect combined arms army, for 750. You're gonna have to take a cut somewhere, whether it's bringing troops as inexperienced or maybe dropping down to tank size or something. You're gonna have to make a cut, and I absolutely love it. Oh, that's awesome, RK. That's really awesome. But yeah, I think if I run a second event in the wintertime, I think it'll probably be a 750 event for sure. And I don't know if I'll do the minimum 12. That's really cool. I might. If he's okay with that, of course, I'll ask him if he's alright if I poach his style. But it'll definitely be a 750 point event. Yeah, I don't know. It's something I enjoy about list building. Not just the terrain, but something I really enjoy about bolt action. It really is the points cost. It really kind of makes you look at it. Ooh, those things have 8 armor value 8 in Recce. That's really good. See, I've always thought that's one thing the Imperial Japanese have is their Type 92 tankette. I've always thought it's probably one of the more superior tankettes, because it has a hole-mounted heavy machine gun, so frontal fire. It has a turn-mounted mini machine gun, armor value 7, and it has Recce or Recon, but it's pretty cheap. And ironically, it's one of the few kits that Warlord Games doesn't sell, which I've always found kind of bizarre. Alright, we are making progress getting through these trucks. So at least we'll get all the green down. And I just got to go back and just kind of clean some of the stuff up. Shouldn't be too bad. I think I am going to have the army ready. The basing for the troops isn't going to look that good. It may just be like straight up just brown. But I think I'll get the army done in time. But I'm with you, RK. I feel like I just keep getting hit by events, you know, and I'm just always under the gun to get painting done. I think we have another competition coming up on Morning Glory's channel too. I think it's is it Tripping the Colors coming up, or yeah, Tripping the Colors is coming up. So it's not gonna be a lot of points, but I'm probably just gonna vow some of the stuff I need to get off my plate, anyways. I have so much bolt action just before I even think about my orcs. I am looking forward to the Berlin game. I'm really looking forward to running these. I'm really looking to run these 6 trucks and 5 jeeps, all with heavy machine guns. I don't think they're gonna last. To be honest, RK, I don't think I'm gonna last past turn 2. Oh my god, I'm glad my troops are veterans. So I don't think many of these vehicles are gonna last past turn 2, but we'll see. I may keep some of the troops. I may keep some of the trucks with troops in reserve, and maybe a few of the jeeps. That way I can try and like outflank with them or bring them in later. I think I'm just gonna be like a battlefield taxi, kind of zoom in, drop off troops, and just try and put as much heavy machine gun fire into German half tracks as I possibly can. I think that's gonna be the preferred target for my heavy machine guns. Just try and put some legit fire into those half tracks. Because if I can knock them out or pin them, that would be great. That is an awesome list. So that was a list I was trying to make for the Berlin game. I wanted to make an enemy at the gates like sniper list for the Soviets. So I was trying to make a list with as many anti-tank rifles and snipers as I possibly could. That was gonna be fun. And just sit there and just literally start start capping every officer, every officer and half track I could find. Well, I took my trucks as the biggest truck size you can just to meet the points requirement, you know, or the points limit. So I'm hoping I have plenty of room in these trucks, not just for my little MP squads. So I'm hoping I can get some of the Americans to just like jump in my my fellow American guys to jump in my trucks and just literally deliver them straight up the board as fast as I can. Yeah, so that was the big thing about this game. That's why I didn't bring my Fortune Hunter army. Is there's no Fort Observers. So that would have rendered my entire Fortune Hunter Department of Antiquities Monuments Men style army. It would have rendered it completely useless with no Fort Air Observers. So that's why I had to build this whole army from scratch. Yeah, I'm not even making use of the fire maneuver, the American rifle rule, because I'm using all SMGs and BARs. So I don't really think I'm benefiting from any of my special rules. Not unless I keep some units in reserve and try and bring them on. Then I don't have to suffer the -1 to bring them on, which is kind of cool. But I don't even think my Jeeps have recce. Let me check my rules. Check my list. I'm pretty sure they don't even get recce. Yeah, damn, they don't. Yeah. My Jeeps don't even have reconnaissance on them. It's just 5 regular Jeeps with heavy machine guns. That's gonna be good. And I do have 1 bazooka team, so. But all my infantry squads, so the infantry squad for this, they are 6 men, 4 have submachine guns, 2 have BARs, and they're veterans, and they do have anti-tank grenade. And they all are tough fighter, even the ones with the BARs. So if they get in close combat, I mean, they're not fanatics, which is unfortunate, but if they get in close combat, even with tanks, they might be able to do some serious damage. Because they're all tough fighters, so that's... Unless I don't understand the rules, which is a very good point, so RK, feel free to correct me here. But the whole 6-man squad is tough fighter, and they have anti-tank grenades. So I'm pretty sure when they roll to damage a vehicle, you know, even if they miss, they get to re-roll, which is absolutely phenomenal. So even if that vehicle advanced and I'm only hitting on 6s, I at least get to re-roll 6 dice, fishing for that 6. Pretty tits. And again, to me, that kind of matches the MPs. They're all using they're all using SMGs and automatic weapons, you know, for, you know, keeping all these enemy prisoners of war. You know, they're there to disable vehicles, take out vehicles, and they're really good at urban fighting. That kind of matches to me for, you know, MPs, especially this late in the war for the actual fall of Berlin. So see, yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Let me look that up. Let me see. That's the only thing I don't like about the 3rd edition rulebook is it's just like shit scattered everywhere. All right, so let me check the rulebook. All right, guys, we're doing a rules check. I love this. A rules check on stream to figure out if tough fighter works with anti-tank grenades. All right, let me take a look here. Vehicles, tanks assaulting, infantry assaulting vehicles. Too fast to attack, tank fear, close quarters. Assuming the infantry have not been destroyed, as a result, they will work out the infantry as follows. Hits against the vehicle are not scored automatically. If the vehicle is immobilized, it has been brought to a halt, therefore a downward choice next to it. Here we go. Hold on. The infantry will score a hit on a die roll of 4, 5, or 6. If the vehicle is making an advance action, the assaulting troops must roll 6 to score the hit. It is still moving at a pace that makes it difficult to strike. Ah, okay, very good. RK, you nailed it. Yeah, no modifiers apply to these 2 hit rolls. Okay, cool. Very small in there. I'm glad I double read that. Great call, RK. I think you're right. No, don't think you're right. You're exactly right. It says no modifiers affect that 2 hit roll. Ah, that's unfortunate. Damn, that would have been great. Oh well. Still not bad. Still 6 guys fishing for a 6 at worst. So I'll still take it if they're still alive. If 6 of them are still alive. Great call, RK. Okay, like I drink and I know things. So that's the other thing, RK. They apparently they've renovated some of the bars on board. I mean, the bars were already great on board the ship. It's an older style ship, so that's what you have. You have seating. You have a lot of stages for a lot of different bands. That's the one cool thing about the Margarita at Sea. They specialize, because, you know, obviously named after Jimmy Buffett. They specialize in, like, a lot of musical acts. So, like, everywhere you go on the ship, there's, like, usually a band. There's, like, sometimes it's a piano or a dueling piano bar. Sometimes it's just, like, you know, one guy with a guitar out by, like, the pizza joint or the burger joint. Sometimes, like, a small band in the middle of the ship. But, like, most major areas on the ship have their own dedicated bar and their own little stage, which is kind of cool. But a lot of the bars got renovated, so each bar, I think, offers their own specialty drink. You know? So as you go on the ship, each of the different bar areas will have something that the other bars don't offer, which is kind of cool. They have, like, your regular, like, margarita bar, like, swim-up bar, just like your normal chill bar. They have one that's a little bit fancier, and then I think, by the theater, I think it's got Stars on the Water. That's where they have, like, their new renovated, like, super nice bar that makes all, like, their crazy drinks, you know, with, like, a little bubble and smoke comes out, or a little, like, smoke your bourbon, all sorts of cool stuff. I figured you'd get a kick out of that, RK. I can tell you, like, so I had a margarita as soon as I got on board, and it was good, you know? I'm partial to my margaritas, but their margarita was good. But the one thing I did drink a lot of when I was on that cruise ship, surprisingly, were espresso martinis. Just to, like, kind of have the energy to run around and do stuff. And I'm pretty sure the coffee is, like, from the Bahamas, you know? So they're really good. They do have good rum on board. Last time I was on board, I was able to actually, like, find not just, like, you know, margarita brand, you know, well rum, or them calling Captain's, like, top shelf. No, they actually had, like, El Dorado and some of the other rum brands there. I was like, ooh. Yeah, so they had really good rum. Ooh, let me check on the poll, see how the poll's doing. All right, 58% are still going with Balanced Army. Yep, still not a lot of tankers out there, at least in this group. Yeah, so that's my big army at 1250. I have 8 Chiha tanks. 8 Chiha tanks. I want to say 2 or 4 lunge mines inexperienced. All the Chiha tanks are inexperienced. 4 squads of militia rifles, 5 per squad, inexperienced. 2 Kipatai inexperienced. And I think 2 regular officers. And I'm pretty sure that comes out to about 1250. So I can take 8 inexperienced, you know, Chiha tanks. That's 8 up armor. That's not bad. Kind of move them up in a line and keep them next to their platoon armored platoon commander. Just pump out shots. Hide the infantry until like the last couple turns and make us mad dash for the objectives. I don't know, I think my preferred sipping rum, if not an El Dorado, like an El Dorado 15 probably. Actually, the 12 is really just as good as the 15, truly. Probably like half the price. I have a 21, it's nice, but yeah, I don't drink it that much. But probably a Diplomatico Reserva, the Venezuelan rum. It's got like this nice little orange rind, almost like a Earl Grey kind of bergamot kind of aftertaste to it. It's really good. And you can make a really good old fashioned out of it too. Holy shit, you already finished all those orcs, Sean? Oh my god, that's insane, man. Thank you, truly. You could definitely make a Khmer Rouge army in probably in Korean something there for bolt action. Yeah, those orcs have been looking good, man. I appreciate all the status photos you sent me. They look phenomenal. Can't thank you enough for doing that, man, truly. Well, he offered to paint me some models, and I asked him if he would mind doing some orc boys, and he said yes, which I was super appreciative for. Nah, man, the work you've done in them, they look absolutely awesome and hilarious. And I'm glad that it's got like the orc in you, you know, like Gork and Mork were summoned, and they're convincing you to do more orcs. I can't wait to see how you do your Stompa. It's probably gonna look awesome. Alright, we're getting there. Soon we'll have all the green down. I'm just gonna go back and just hit some of the smaller ones. But yeah, RK, if you're interested, I'll bring those 3 Schwinn wagons to Berlin, and you can have them if you want. I've had them for so damn long. I've never used them, so I'd just be happy if they get some use. Nice. And I think you already have your 500-point list built, but I'm not gonna lie, as you know, I'll tell everybody this too. There is gonna be a river-heavy map for Clash of the Caribbean, so you might want to. It might behoove of you, to use those amphib cars. Might end up being worth it. Speaking of amphibious landings, let me know. Did I ever tell you guys the story of the amphibious landing that some people did at an Air Force base I'll station at here in Florida? Let me know. If not, I'll go into one of my time-tested Tiki stories. Alright, so Tiki Tale number, what is this, 562 perhaps? Alright. So, this happened at MacDill Air Force Base. That MacDill is located at the southern point of Tampa. And it is technically inside, if you're familiar with the area, it's inside of Tampa Bay, but before you get to Old Tampa Bay, which is further up north. So the bay opens, in 2 spots, kind of, if that makes sense. So it's inside of the bay, but not at the mouth of the bay. Anyways. Alright, so I am but a young E5, a little Staff Sergeant Tiki, and I'm actually currently, on this night, I am assigned as Police 1. I am the area supervisor for all of the law enforcement patrols for MacDill Air Force Base for that night. The flight chief is still in control of the entire flight. A flight is a platoon. So of the posted platoon, the flight chief's still in command, including the multiple security posts. So you have law enforcement and security. Security are posted at gates and patrolling flight lines and stuff like that. I'm law enforcement, so I'm traveling the roads, and I have 2 law enforcement vehicles under my command. At that time I had 2. Supposed to have 3, but we broke one off for security. So I have two mobile law enforcement units. That's 2 in each car. And then I didn't have an alpha with me that night, so I was by myself. So basically, I just have a fire team separated into law enforcement cars, right? So that night, I was actually investigating a suicide down in the family camping area where a lot of older retirees have their trailers. Somebody pulled a Kurt Cobain with a 12 gauge with a slug, mind you, and no one reported it. We found him several days later, expired. We found him by smell, and the shocking part is no one reported. Give me a second. Alright, sorry about that. I'll make sure FBI was listening. Where was I? Ah, yes, that's right. Investigating this suicide. So somebody Kurt Cobained it with a 12 gauge, super loud. Everyone who knows everyone's ever heard a 12 gauge, it's loud. Everyone's ever heard a 12 gauge slug is extraordinarily loud, right? So the scary part for us is we found it by smell. What annoyed me and everybody else is that means nobody. So again, fam camp is a bunch of RVs and trailers and a bunch of retired military members. In case you don't know, retired military members, especially their spouses who outlive the military members, are extremely nosy, right? I mean, they will call the desk and report if someone's dog, sneezes too loud or pees where it's not supposed to pee, right? These people complain about everything and they're spying on all of each other, right? We get noise complaints like 2 or 3 times a night. So what's terrifying is nobody reported the sound of a 12 gauge shooting a slug, for weeks. That's the part that didn't sit right with me, right? So with that being said, because of the death, Air Force OSI comes in, they do their full investigation. I got in a little bit of trouble because I asked, hey, what happens to all this stuff? And they're like, oh, it's going to be auctioned off. I was like, oh, okay. And they're joking around, like, why? I was like, well, the trailer doesn't look that bad except for, obviously the one hole in it. And number 2, I was like, what about the shotgun? Like, what do you mean? I was like, it's not a murder weapon, it's a suicide weapon. It's like, is that, because I was learning law enforcement at the time. I was like, is that going to be like auctioned off? I was like, the 12 gauge? I was like, yeah. I was like, it's clearly functional, slightly used. I was curious about it. I don't know. So I got yelled at for that. I guess like morbid curiosity. But so anyways, the part that bothered me as the area supervisor is no one reported that. So I was like, great, now I gotta go do some foot patrols of the fam camp area. I gotta go and walk amongst the RVs and see what the hell is going on that somebody wouldn't report, that loud ass sound. So in order to do a foot patrol, I have to park my vehicle. You can't just drive with the windows down. To do a good foot patrol, which is part of community policing, I'd have to park my truck, get out, and yeah, it was a pump action shotgun, so it's still gonna work, Anyways, so I have to get out, I have to park my truck, get out, and do a foot patrol. So when you're doing a foot patrol, you can't always get back to your vehicle, and I'm not gonna leave my rifle, my M4, locked in my truck, even in the little barrier they have. It's a bad idea. So luckily, it's the one thing I did right. I took my rifle with me and slung it on my back. So I make sure I have water, make sure my radio's fully charged, or I grab a spare battery, I sling my rifle on my back and I get out and I call in and I start my foot patrol. And luckily I always bring a poncho, and out of nowhere, I swear to God, out of nowhere, a storm just rolls in. Like, this is one of those really fast, really bad thunderstorms, and it hits the bay and it just starts raining everywhere. And I'm already conducting my foot patrol, so I'm like, shit. Alright, fine, fair enough. So I'm walking around wearing a poncho, making sure my rifle doesn't get soaked. Make sure my radio and M9 doesn't get soaked. I'm just sitting here like, this sucks. And then out of nowhere, we get this call. It's our flight chief, and he sounds absolutely terrified. I was about to say she, because she was our desk sergeant. So we had a desk sergeant and a flight chief. So they both sound absolutely terrified. and they finally come across from me like, hey, how close are you to the boat patrol unit? I was like, what? Like, you know, what's the status of boat patrol? I was like, they don't operate at night. I was like, I'll go check the building, but they probably aren't there. And so I went there, and sure as shit, boat patrol was not there because at that time they didn't operate at night. Because we have a little marina down there, and they launch out of the marina, and I was like, why? So I grab a phone, I landline the desk. I'm like, why the hell are you asking about boat patrol? I was like, what kind of shit is this? Like, we have multiple radar contacts. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, this is unbelievable. Like, yeah, we have multiple surface radar contacts on the water, you know, bearing down on MacDill Air Force Base and coming in fast. So, like, and they just started going crazy. Like, this is suspected, you know, enemy insertion. I was like, is this like an exercise? Like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, this is real world. Dude, that's all I needed to hear. I was like, oh, hell yes. Like, game time. I was like, cool, roger that. Slam the phone, grab the radio, and I tell both my law enforcement units, you know, to, you know, go mobile, get in their vehicles, and get ready for dispatch by the desk. And sure as shit, the desk comes across on the radio, and they're like, all forces be advised, this time we have possible amphibious landing. I say again, possible amphibious landing at MacDill Air Force Base. We have multiple service contacts coming in at a high rate of speed. You know, small contacts, possible small boats, and insertion. Can I get all law enforcement patrols to the golf course? So if you look at a map of MacDill Air Force Base while I'm telling the story, it's a double headquarters base. So, you know, we take any threat to that base extremely serious. It's the headquarters for CENTCOM and SOCOM. This is all open source intelligence, so nothing crazy. And so we have multiple generals on base, and, you know, two very important commands. You know, Central Command for all of, you know, central operations for the world. So you're looking at anything in the Middle East, and SOCOM. So any special operations, you know, huge target. So one of our golf courses is located right by the water, because fucking of course it is, and right next to the marina and the fam camp. And again, this is still Florida, and if you know where Tampa Bay is located, particularly MacDill Air Force Base, that whole area used to just be fucking mangroves, right? It was all just terrible mangroves, and they literally carved a base out of nothing in World War II for like bomber practice, right? And we've made it a base ever since. It's a terrible location for a base. If it slightly rains, that base will flood. And like I said, the storm rolled in, so the whole base, particularly the golf course, just started flooding. So I'm basically, you know, I sling my rifle, I keep my poncho on me. You know, I'm not gonna go get my truck because there's no way, even my truck with all-wheel drive would not make it through the Ho Chi Minh Trail I'm about to run through to get to the golf course. So I'm having to run on foot, poncho. I have the biggest shit-eating grin on my face, because up until then I hadn't deployed yet. You know, I'd done a bunch of other missions, but I hadn't fully deployed yet. So this is, to me, I'm like, oh hell yes, this is finally game time. You know, like this shit's about to get real. So I am sprinting with a shit-eating grin on my face, rain coming down sideways, poncho blowing everywhere. Again, running through these mangroves, like getting sopping wet up to my knees, covered in mud and water and all sorts of stuff. So I get to the southern part of the golf course. One of my police cars doesn't listen and gets stuck in in a ditch. They tried to take the small little bridge, like a covert coming onto the golf course, and they kind of went off. And they were driving a sedan, you know, an Impala. So they get the Impala stuck, so they have to get out of the Impala, and they have to advance on foot. And the other guys are in a truck, luckily. And so they park, they get out, and they're advancing on foot. So we're trying to get not really a 360, because there's a coastline. So we're trying to get, like, between the 5 of us, we're trying to secure 5 points and close in on where these possible landing craft, I swear to God. And as we come, you know, here comes the flight chief, thank God, with more personnel. Like, I don't know who the fuck he woke up, but he got all sorts of people in his truck coming down. So it was like another 6 people. So we're all in there crawling, like taking cover, bounding through a fucking golf course, right? Looking with flashlights on where the enemy is. Because they told us not to use night vision for whatever reason. Like, be advised, you know, do not use night vision. I guess they thought it was going to be some type of advanced threat that could see our night vision. It would just make us a target. So they wanted us to use flashlights to blind their night vision, if that makes sense. Because this is, per them, they thought this was a more concentrated attack. And then we spot them. I didn't spot it. Luckily, one of my patrols spotted it first, and she screamed. She screamed at him. She's like, show me your hands, show me your hands. And then she started yelling in Spanish. And I was like, why the fuck is Gonzo talking Spanish? And sure as shit, then we see them. Guys, I bullshit you not. It was 3 jet skis. Technically it was 4, but 1 sunk. So 4 jet skis, 1 sunk. It was a family of tourists. I forget where they are from. I think they were from Costa Rica. But it was 4 jet skis and 1 sunk. A whole bunch of tourists who happened to be out in Tampa Bay with jet skis that they rented, you know? And they thought they rented it for the day, so they didn't have to bring it back during the day. They thought they could bring it back the next day. So they're just tearing it up all through Tampa Bay at night in jet skis. And then when the storm hit, they just fucking ran from the storm to the closest landmass they found, which they just thought was the city of Tampa. But it was MacDill Air Force Base. So as they're coming in, apparently one of the jet skis goes down, so they like rescued everybody on the jet ski and brought them in. So these people, if you've ever seen like Turkish or, and I'm not being jingoistic here or anything like that, but if you've ever seen like, or bigoted, if you've ever seen like Turkish or Indian families on a bicycle, where like the whole family's on a bike and they're holding the kid off to one side, a basket off to the other. It's exactly what they look like coming in on these jet skis. Dude, we just found, I think it was like, I'm trying to think, it was like 7 or 8 people absolutely fucking terrified because they had just ran from a storm that they didn't see coming on jet skis, crashed on what ended up being what they thought was gonna be land, but it's a swampy mangrove, made it past the water moccasins and possible gators of the mangrove, crawled up onto the golf course, and then they get to the golf course, you have a bunch of people with flashlights, a bunch of pissed off Air Force guys with rifles screaming at him, and then luckily you have one girl who's like 5'0" screaming at him in Spanish. Dude, it was an absolute shit show. We still had to call Air Force OSI. Special Operation Command hears about it. They want to deploy their quick reaction force. We're like, no, it's cool, it's just tourists. And we're like, no, it's not, that's just a ruse. And they wanted to like we detained them, but like OSI came, they did they're doing their investigation. We're about to hand them over. And then Special Operations tries to come in and take over the whole thing and like take these guys off for interrogation. And we're like, hey, you don't have the jurisdiction. Like, we don't give a fuck about jurisdiction. So then it turned into a whole nother shit show. We're sitting here like screaming at each other, yelling. No one's touching weapons, but it's about to turn into like an all hands throwing hands fucking brawl. Like, have you seen Super Troopers where they fight over the RV, you know, between the highway patrol and the local cops? It was about to be that shit, but, you know, highly trained Special Operations versus a bunch of pissed off, wet, soaking security forces, like Air Force cops who were just pissed off. We've been out there everybody's soaked, everybody's wet, we're all just screaming and it's cold, like the fucking tourists are on the ground crying, but you can't see their tears because the rain's coming down, their faces are just soaking wet. Dude, it's one of the biggest absolute shit shows I've ever seen in my career. Oh my god. Sorry if the timing was off on that story. Sorry if it was a bit anticlimactic because I'm a little tired. So my usual storytelling is a bit off, but dude, it was absolutely wild. What they said was a amphibious landing was just a couple lost tourists running away from a storm. It ended up being legally it became a huge shit show because it was just a whole huge nightmare. But luckily, none of me or my guys got any paperwork, so that's all that mattered. And nobody got hurt. Yeah, I was thinking we were out there for like 4 or 5 hours. I'll never forget because I was so happy to get back in my truck because the whole time I was thinking, I was like, I got a half-eaten bag of tropical Skittles in my truck, and that's all I could think about. So I was just sitting there just screaming and yelling at each other. I'm like, I got a half-eaten bag of Skittles in my truck. I can't wait to get back to that. And I remember like sitting in my truck. You know, I finally got back to it. I put my rifle in the rack. You know, my rifle, my pistol, and my radio were the only things that were dry. I mean, I was soaked. You know, to the point where you're so wet, like through your boxers or underwear, that every part of you is wet. Like, socks are so everything is soaking wet except for my radio, my pistol, and my rifle. I'm just sitting there in my truck, and as soon as I sit in and I turn it on, because again it's summertime, so you know the AC kicks on. I basically just take like an Arctic fucking blast to the face while I'm soaking wet. I just don't even move. I just like reach over and turn off the AC, and it's just one of those moments where I'll never forget. I sat there for like 10 minutes contemplating life choices, and I'm like, you know what, it's worth it because I got some fucking Skittles, and I reach over for my tropical Skittles and I just start eating. I'll never forget, because you know usually I don't know how everybody else does it, but when you eat like M&Ms or Skittles or Milk Duds or maybe popcorn, you know, you kind of like put it in your hand and you put like a few in your mouth. I ate those fucking Skittles one at a time, and I swear to God, I just stared straight through my dashboard. I just sat there outside the house, and I could still see the blue lights, like my blue lights flashing off the police tape around the trailer that has one legit hole in the roof from the guy who Kurt Cobained it with a 12-gauge slug. I'm just sitting there, and you can still faintly smell it. I mean, the smell's gone because we moved the body, but you can still see like all the stuff, right? You can still see the yellow tape, the blue lights flashing, and I'm sitting there just eating a Skittle one at a time. And I'll never forget, the part that doesn't leave me is still nobody came up in that whole fam camp where they're always in everybody's business playing, you know, rumor mill this, rumor mill that, everyone's spying on everybody. Nobody came to ask me what the hell was going on as I left that truck there. You know, part that came back soaking wet after they heard all the commotion, fighting and screaming and flashlights and yelling. I sat in my truck with the blue lights on, eating one Skittle at a time, and not a single person came up to the truck to see what the hell was going on. I was like, man, they're really letting it go in the fam camp. And yeah, that was absolutely one of those work days. The paperwork was insane. So by the time I finally got to go home, the sun was already coming up. You ever have such a rough day at work, you drive home straight up 10 and 2 on the wheel with no music, and you're just staring straight ahead? Like, you're so tired and so just absolutely done that you don't even turn on the music. It's one of those days. That's exactly what it was, CB Cooper. I had never been so excited for dry food in my life. Because I was so ready. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be an amphib landing. I was like, I'm about to actually see like legit combat here in the state of Florida. This is going to be insane. And then once I realized what's going on, I'm like, oh my God, this is just a shit show. And I'm just looking around like, I don't want to be here. I got food in my Jeep. Because as you can imagine, every single department they looped in just wanted to do more and more and more. And everyone wanted to talk to us, so we had kept down to stay. It's like, okay, you guys are dismissed. Okay, never mind, you guys have to stay because Liga wants to talk to you. So like, this is dumb. So I ended up just getting I got, as a good NCO should, I ended up doing statements from my 4 troops, then I cut them loose. And I just stayed there in the rain just listening to all the bullshit. So luckily my troops were able to go, and they went to like the hotel to dry off. You know, get some coffee. The funny thing is, no matter how shitty it was for me, I could not even imagine what it was like for those tourists. You know, you're running from a storm in a jet ski, and you just, of all the places to end up, you end up on a military base. Not the warmest reception, truly. So yeah, there's another Tiki tale for you. No one ever came forward. Actually, I have another funny story about that fam camp. I'll save it for another day. But I actually almost died in that fam camp. I almost got shot. Oh man. Yeah, wild stories, man. Glad I was able to get a Tiki tale in the middle of the in the stream. I'm glad you guys like those. You know, I said I got tons. It was a long, wild career. I always seem to be in the wrong place at either the wrong or the right time. Oh, the best part is before they even got to me, because that's the other thing is once we figured out we're trying to use one of my troops as an interpreter because we needed to check them. And again, there was a mix of male and females, and they're like freezing cold because they were wearing swimsuits for vacation. You know, these weren't like full body one pieces. These were very scandalous two pieces. And some of the guys had like the European Speedos. And so we're trying to check them all over with flashlights, not just for like weapons. And honestly, them wearing swimsuits probably saved their lives because we could see that they weren't carrying a lot of weapons. Some had shorts and t-shirts, you know, but we had to search them and they didn't understand what we were searching them for. We were looking for snake bites because it's almost like a natural protection on that base. Those mangroves, I'm telling you right now, are infested with water moccasins and gators. The gators aren't a big deal. Everyone thinks the gators are a big deal. They're not. It's the water moccasins. So we're sitting there trying to check these guys out with flashlight to see for snake bites so we can get them the anti-venom. But surprisingly, not a single one of them got bit by a water moccasin or a gator. Because, yeah, they had to put their jet skis in the mangroves, crawl through the mangroves till they even made it to the shoreline to crawl up onto the rapidly swamp-turning, sinking golf course. No, so for that shotgun not being reported, I think it had to do a lot more with, again, these are naturally older people, you know, so they like their upside down pineapples, if you know what that's code for. And because they're technically on military benefits, they are still Article 2 and Article 5 of the UCMJ and the Manual for Court Martial, which means they are still held applicable to military law, which means if they commit adultery, that's actually a crime in the military and you can lose your military benefits. So because they were all military retirees, if they got caught committing adultery, you know, they could lose all their retiree benefits. So what I'm thinking is somebody was over at somebody's house doing the horizontal tango and nobody wanted to report it. For me, it is about 05:28 in the morning. I plan on ending the stream at 06, so we got about 30 minutes left. Yeah, so it wasn't exactly a Normandy beach landing, but that shit was wild. And that is not the only time. First off, that was the first time, but that was not the only time. Yes, upside down pineapples meet swingers. That was not the only time we got wildly exaggerated intel on possible foreign intelligence operative / terror attack on base. But better to be safe than sorry, you know. You don't want to get caught with your pants down like a USS Cole again, you know. So I didn't hold it against the desk, you know. They worked with what they had, but that shit was just absolutely wild. But it's amazing how fast everyone went from like being excited this is a real deal to how like, oh, what a bunch of mundane shit. And then we all realized what was happening. We all thought the same thing, like this is gonna be so much paperwork. I swear to God, I saw my flight chief age like 6 years in one night. In between the lightning flashes. I was like, oh, sweet Jesus. Exactly, those unidentified floating objects. I mean, to be fair, they're right. On the radar cross signature, I mean, they kept blipping in and out, and they're moving at a high speed. I mean, could it have been Zodiacs full of, you know, former Spetsnaz? I mean, who fucking knows, right? Well, unclassed, what makes Florida such a vulnerable target is it's literally America's Porsche to the Caribbean, right? So there's a lot of stuff that can move in and out of the Caribbean, a lot of players, a lot of money making stuff. And at a high rate of speed, it's easy to, you know, get into Florida. Not undetected, clearly, but you can get to Florida quickly. And that base, like I said, that base has 2 headquarters attached to it. So if you're targeting high value personnel, it is a likely target. Not as juicy as the Pentagon or, you know, Fort Knox or any of the other stuff, but it's a target. Another funny, so this is before my time, so it's not technically my story to tell, but I was still in 7th grade algebra class, but when 9/11 happened, September 11th, the second attack on the World Trade Center, this time with aircraft, and the plane that hit the Pentagon and the other plane that got shot down or crashed, whatever. When 9/11 happened, that same base, MacDill, realized how woefully, you know, exposed it was. Because again, when you look at MacDill, it's a peninsula on the peninsula. So Florida's a peninsula, right? And then Tampa is a peninsula inside of Tampa Bay, which is on Florida. And then MacDill's a peninsula on the peninsula of Tampa, inside of Tampa Bay, on the peninsula that is Florida. So it's literally a peninsula on a peninsula on a peninsula. So 3/4 of the base has waterfront exposed to the waterline, right? Very hard base to secure. So when 9/11 happened, they still have CENTCOM SOCOM there. They were absolutely terrified. And they realized their whole waterline, you know, the Coast Guard can't protect them there. So I bullshit you not, we have pictures to this day. It's so cool. They took the security forces guys, Air Force security forces. They issued them all the 240s and M60s they had, and 249s. And they kicked them down to Fam Camp, the family camping and recreation area. And they sent them down to... That's a good joke, okay, I get it. They sent them down to the marina. Now, the marina has, like, boats you can rent to, like, go out fishing with your family and kayaks and stuff like that. But they also have a lot of pontoon boats, because people like to take pontoon boats out for, like, you know, cookouts and hanging out on sandbars. It's a fun little family boat, right? So they go down there, and I swear to God, they stole every boat they could find that floated. The pontoon boats, they stole, like, 2 different officers' sailboats. Anything that could float and had an engine. These security forces guys, they took anyone who knew how to, luckily a lot of them were Floridians by nature, so they knew how to operate boats. But they went down there and commandeered every boat they could find that could hold like 2 or 3 people, and they pushed them out into the water, and they set up an actual exclusion area with medium machine guns, you know, to provide, you know, anti-air fire or, you know, repelling enemy ships coming too close if that was the next part of the attack. Because you gotta remember, it's 9/11. Nobody knew where the next attack was gonna come from or how they were gonna do it. So we actually have pictures of them, no bullshit, on a pontoon boat with like machine guns posted out everywhere. It was fucking wild. That was the day the boat patrol got started in MacDill, was literally on 9/11. It's kind of a cool little story. I wasn't there in person, like I said, I was still a young kid. I'll never forget when I found out I was in 7th grade in algebra class. Alright, gonna do some pink on the headlights before I put yellow on them. One little idea I got from Squick Hunter Sean. Thanks again. So something I'll let Squig and Sean explain it more in depth than me, but what I've noticed for like a warmer looking yellow light for like a headlamp like this, if you do like a cold kind of pink underneath, let that dry, then go over it with your yellow, it kind of makes the yellow look, makes the yellow pop a little bit more, and kind of gives it more of like a warmer look. So if you're doing like an old school like World War II headlight, you know, it's gonna look really good. Thanks, CB Cooper. I'm glad. Well, I think it does something, Sean. I like the way it looks. No, he's right. It works really well when I'm doing the rockets for my my rockets or the grenades for my orcs. Cause I like to do those yellow so they explode more. I always paint it pink first. Yeah, I forgot who gave me the advice. I think it was either you, Squig or Sean, or it was I think possibly Matt Larkin. But when I went to go use this Tesseract Glow, someone told me to paint underneath it, paint it in white. Do several coats of white, like several coats of white, and then use the Tesseract Glow, and it ended up looking absolutely amazing. I would be surprised if it was all just like a big play from Sean just to paint my models pink. Like, look at that idiot painting his shit pink because he believed me. What a nerd. I would trust Sean implicitly with any advice he gave me about painting. Not saying I would listen or do it, but I'm saying I would trust him. Oh my god, that can't be right. 31 people watching? Oh, sweet Jesus. Oh man, that's crazy. Well, you know, those of you watching, feel free to hop in the chat, introduce yourself, say hi, say howdy. We're a friendly group here. Or if you just want to watch me terribly paint these trucks, by all means. If you're curious why I'm painting these lights pink, I just explained it's to make the, when I paint them yellow, it's to make that, look a little bit better. Oh, I was like the guy with the shield. I was like, what? Oh, yeah. Sure. So, the guy with the shield is actually my militia rifleman for my IJA army. I decided to use the Wargame Atlantic Aztec box, and so I built these guys. I built these guys using the Wargame Atlantic Aztec box, and then using arms with rifles from all sorts of different bolt action / Wargame Atlantic World War I, World War II boxes. So the fun part is this shield is actually the lore behind it is the Imperial Japanese Army are going to tell them it's a magic shield that'll stop bullets, and it has a magic rune on it. But what it's really going to be is it's just going to be the lid to a sake barrel, and the kanji symbol is just going to be the kanji symbol for, you know, rice wine. But But yeah, these are my militia riflemen. So here's one. Here's what another one looks like. You know, these were the actual Tiki tears. So I use militia riflemen for my 1250 point list that has 8 tanks. You know, because I need a lot of cheap infantry. I wanted to do the Mythic Americas from Warlord Games, but they're a little too fantastical. You know, I wanted something a little bit more toned down, and the tribals from Frostgrave, Ghost Arpelago were just a little too tall. Oh yeah, so yeah, the Europeans have woken up, and yeah, sure enough, the tanker army has risen. Yeah, the sergeant, not the sergeants, but the leader of the militia rifle guys, they all have drums, you know, so it's actually kind of cool. And same thing, the inexperienced lunge mines for this army, they're actually going to be these guys, but their spears actually have lunge mines, and they're told they're special sacred spears, and they're actually just suicidal lunge mines. Alright, I think I have enough time. Speaking of exhibit and Pippin rides, to hit the grill on each truck and then do the fuel tanks, and then I'll probably be it for tonight or this morning. Yeah, okay, I think that would be like the most overpowered thing they could give Japan, our Empire of Japan, for bolt action, is to let the lunch mine guys pay 5 points for a bicycle. That shit would just be wild. Exactly, CV Cooper. Yep, and that's why, just like everybody else, I always do the biggest first. Yeah, the biggest part of the model and the biggest color, and just work my way down to the smaller, the smaller, the smaller, the smaller. Yeah, it feels really good. And all you gotta do is like a little bit of touch. You're exactly right, CV Cooper. No, Grim Tim Tim. It's funny you mentioned that. I use veteran lunge mines, and I don't. It's not because of me, because I'm not a competitive guy, but veteran lunge mines are the way that everybody's starting to take them. It's the best way to take the lunge mines because it makes them very hard to kill, and a lot of people, I call the tactic a trouble bubble. So because they have a charge of 12 inches, you know, it creates a 12-inch trouble bubble for your enemy to keep their tanks away. And if you can ignore them, but you know they can also advance and knock out your tanks, or you can dump fire onto them. And as long as you don't move your lunge mines, you know they have the infiltrator special rule. So if you make them go down, whether they're behind cover or not, they also get the benefit from the infiltrator rule. And if they're veterans, they can be extraordinarily hard to kill. But even if your enemy kills your veteran lunge mines, they're going to have to waste a lot of shots in doing so. So they're still getting, and they're only 26 points for a veteran lunge mine. So you take veteran lunge mines, and they are absolutely a good option for the Imperial Japanese, in my opinion. Because they'll either kill a tank, which is phenomenal and it feels good, or they'll waste a lot of enemy shots or cause him to keep his tanks in the backfield and worry about what's going on. These trouble bubbles cause your enemy to make choices, you know, and you're hoping they'll make a bad choice. Yeah, we joked about airborne lunge mines. It's basically just like a guy with a lunge mine, like a pogo stick and a parachute. And if you spread out your trouble bubbles, then you'll actually prevent him from being able to like assault through with his tanks. And depending on the mission, again, they're also infiltrators. So, and they're still infantry. So you can put a lunge mine guy out and possibly secure an objective. I did that when I played RK, when we did our airborne assault in Malta. Yes, it is +8. So the downside of lunge mines. First off, oh, hey, what's going on, Weird War 2? Keep it weird, buddy. So with lunge mines, they changed the bonsai rule where it doesn't automatically go off. You still have to roll, but if you fail your charge, as long as you're in range, you can re-roll it. So that's what bonsai does. But the downside to lunge mines is if you roll a 1, the way the kamikaze rule is in effect is once you make contact with the tank, your guy is dead. Like, he is 100% dead. You give the enemy your die. And then you resolve a hit at pin +8. So if you roll a 1, that is still a fail to damage, which means if you roll a 1, you lost a guy for no reason, and there's absolutely no damage to their tank. So that's the risk we run running lunge mines. But yeah, I think, and again, I don't know because I don't look at a lot of competitive events, but from what I'm seeing of some lists, I think some people are kind of overlooking, in my opinion, anyways, the advantages of infiltrator rule, particularly for the Americans and for the British. You already have advantages to taking forward observers, right? The artillery have the arty advantage, and the Americans have the airborne. So what I'd say is pay the extra points, especially for the Americans. For the Americans, I would take it as 3 veteran riflemen. Because, you know, you get 2 airstrikes, plus if they want to shoot the rifle instead, you know, they get 4 rifle shots because of the rule. They're veterans and they're also infiltrators, and they still count as infantry. So if you have them in good cover and they don't move, that squad's going to be extremely hard to displace. I think it's supposed to be a toolbox, but I'm painting mine as a fuel tank. What's 30 points? A veteran lunge mine is 26 points. And I have noticed there is a good combo. If the dice don't screw you, there's a good combo between lunge mines and AT rifles. So the Imperial Japanese, when you have an anti-tank slot, like an anti-tank weapon slot, instead of taking a bazooka team or anything like that, you can take up to 3 lunge mines, plus you can still take your anti-tank rifle team. So that way you're kind of getting them from both sides. If they want to kind of keep away from your lunge mines, you can still ping at them. But I don't know what it is. For whatever reason, I have bad luck with AT rifles and mortars. The dice gods do not care of my troubles or woes. I cannot get a hit to save my life. Alright, so again, not pretty good stream. Like I said, we have 1 Jeep completely done as a master copy, and we have 1 truck completely done as a master copy. We got all the green, all the major green, and all the trucks painted, which is pretty good. I just gotta go back and hit the details. It was a fun stream. We talked about a bunch of different kind of stuff. I mentioned a little bit about the Clash of the Caribbean. That's the event I'm gonna host in October. It's a bolt action cruise for 2 days. It's gonna be a lot of fun. There's some links in the chat to some people expecting the ship. We're gonna take a look at it. We traded lots of humorous jokes back and forth. We talked about World War II history, which I absolutely love. Very relevant when doing bolt action streams or Conflict 47 streams. We talked about Italians and the Imperial Japanese. Absolutely, Sean. Let me check that out for you real quick. I just saw you send me that picture. Oh, fuck, that looks good. Yeah, that looks good. That looks really good. And when you take that, Sean, and if you do that in your tan and brown, and you put in little black dots, I think you're going to nail that desert camo, that old 90s desert camo you were talking about. That looks really good. Brother, that looks amazing. That's really, really good zebra print. That looks really good. I figured with them wearing like prison jumpsuits and a lot of like chrome metal, I figured the zebra print would look good, kind of like drug dealer Miami chic, you know? Kind of like what you'd find like in cars and stuff like that, you know? Screwgutter Sean's painting some works for me, for those who didn't know that. Let me go ahead and end the poll here. All right. Looks like half the people want to go for balanced armies. Some people like infantry heavy armies. Some people like tank heavy armies. I get it. I get it. I mostly run infantry heavy armies. I wouldn't call it balanced. I don't use a lot of armored support. I like infantry with fast attack vehicles. That's definitely my play style. Very GLA style. But no, it was a fun stream. We got to talk a little about World War II history. We talked about Italians in World War II and the Imperial Japanese in World War II. Tank design, you know, how form followed the function on the tactics based upon like their postulated enemy. You know, that's why some of the tanks and some of the troops, some of the tactics looked the way they did for both Italy and Japan. We got to do a Tiki tale. I got to tell one of my more humorous stories involving a fake amphibious landing. RK, you're done. Nice. RK finished his fins. Send me a pic, or put a pic in our Gator Cap group if you don't mind. I want to take a look at that. I love it. I love when you guys are painting while I'm painting. It's like the coolest little kind of vibe. But yeah, I gotta tell a hilarious story about a fake amphibious assault. That was hysterical. Overall, I can't tell you guys how much I love this stream. I didn't stream early, and I'm not gonna even though Morning Glory's on break and a lot of people here are from his channel, which I appreciate. I'm not gonna stream during the day or during his time, only because I kind of really like the little niche we've kind of cut out for ourselves here. This like weekend hours, late at night. Very, again, I try and do like a very Toonami style feel, and I feel like it's slowly getting there, and it's absolutely a lot of fun. So it was an absolute blast. And like I said, I'm going to keep this going. I'm about to enter my busy season, but I'm trying to preserve these 2 days and these time brackets to this stream. So I'm going to try and always be here. If not, I'll definitely put a comment out on Facebook ahead of time. I mean, not Facebook, but YouTube ahead of time so you guys can see that. I try never to leave you guys hanging. But I always appreciate you guys coming in the chat. Joe, I'm always appreciated when you're here, Joe. When you say my stories are great, that means something, dude. You're phenomenal. I could hear you read the back of a cereal box and be enthused. So it means a lot when you say that. But I'm glad you guys have fun. I'm glad we get to swap some stories. I'm glad I got a shit ton of painting done. It doesn't look like much, but dude, getting all the green on those trucks is phenomenal. So I'm super happy I got that in. And I paint a little bit slower on stream than I do off stream, but it still kind of keeps me to it. Yeah, I had CB Cooper here. He got some stuff built. CB, I'm going to send you some Gene Center Colts in the mail here soon. I appreciate the commandos. I love those. I'll get those guys painted up. But an absolute blast to stream. As always, guys. It'll probably be like we're probably gonna call it here at 6. But I will be streaming again next weekend. I generally do Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings. You know, depending on how you want to look at it. I stream at least for me in Eastern EST and Eastern Standard Time. I stream from 02 to 04, but I've likely been pushing out to 06. But for those of you guys who are going to sleep, I hope you truly get the sleep you deserve. I hope it's that good REM sleep. You get one of those good dreams. You know, for you guys headed to work, I hope you have a phenomenal day at work. I hope your supervisor doesn't see you. and you're able to kind of sneak in, you know. Oh, no, first of all, no PO box yet. I'm doing my website. I gotta put up a website for the Clash of the Caribbean cruise. I think that's gonna be free though. I shouldn't have to pay for that. I'm gonna fix my merch site, and then I'll look at getting a PO box. I slowly have a triage or a list of doing things. I'll get a PO box soon, I promise. But yeah, for these guys going to sleep, I hope you get the sleep you deserve. For you guys heading to work, you have a phenomenal day at work. And as always, I hope you guys stay safe, stay hydrated, and don't forget to relax today, because you're on Tiki time.
Shipwrecked soldiers on Moto sand, type array rifles in hand, hula gals with summer smiles, no war drums, just beach for miles. Ghost park by Tiki lights, shadows dance in tropic nights, sand beneath where boots once stood, paradise ain't so misunderstood. Lost in waves and hula tunes, tiki drinks and months of booze, forgot the fight in distant lands, just surf and play with tired hands. Bunkers built from palm and hope, coconuts and crude soap, imperial dreams fade in sun, warriors turn beach bums. Shine to ocean gods we raise, praying for forgotten days, sake in the campfire glow, life's a surfboard ebb and flow. Lost in waves and hula tunes, tiki drinks and months of moons, forgot the fight in distant lands, just surf and play with tired hands. Lost in waves and hula tunes, tiki drinks and months of moons, forgot the fight in distant lands, just surf and play with tired hands.